Hey guys, welcome back. This is implicit differentiation again. This is part 5, and in this video I'm going to be mixing it up with some polynomials and some trig, and we're going to just find dy dx in each case, and then some of them I'm going to ask you to evaluate at a certain point. So let's take a look at this. The derivative of 9x squared is 18x to the first, okay? Derivative of 16y squared is 32y to the first. Because the letter is a letter other than x, we need to go d the letter dx. The derivative of 144 is 0. And now we just bring this over to the side and then divide by 32y on both sides. And then you isolated it, and then you guys can reduce it, and you need to reduce it. And that's pretty much how you do this problem, okay? So just reduce this. Next one, find dy dx at the point that they give you. So this is the point they give you. So let's find it. 2/3 times 1. Drop the exponent by 1. That's going to be negative 1/3 plus 2/3 times y. Drop the exponent by 1. Oh, and look what I did. Because I took a derivative other than x, I need to put dy dx, and that's going to be 0. Okay, so a couple of things here. Each piece has a 2/3 in it, and this is an equation. So anytime you have the same number throughout the entire equation, you could literally just reduce it because it's like dividing everything out by 2/3. Now, x to the negative 1/3 plus y to the negative 1/3 dy dx equals 0. And I'm going to solve by bringing over negative x to the negative 1/3. And then I'm going to divide by this guy here. And that's going to be y to the negative 1/3 dy dx. Now, do you guys recall from the last video or 2 videos ago, negative exponent means you could just swap them. And they're both 1/3. So that even helps us out more. So this is going to be 1/3 x to the 1/3. And then what you guys can do, because they have the same power, is you could put the entire thing to 1/3. So it's really just y over x. And because our number is 8, 1, 1 being the y, 8 being the x, this is going to be 1/8 to the third is equal to dy dx. And guess what? 1/8 to the third is 1/2. So this answer here, sorry about the room, this answer here, I'll put it up here, dy dx is going to equal 1/2. Now, please pause the video and try the problem by yourself if I went too fast. But negative exponents tell me that I can swap them in terms of where to put them in the fraction and get rid of the negative. Okay, so I hope that was good. This one here, the point is 2, 1. This is 3x squared. This is 3y squared, but it's dy dx. This here is a product rule. I'm going to leave the 4 out and do the product. I'm going to keep the first, derivative of the second, plus keep the second, derivative of the first. And this guy right here is a 0. Now, because I have a point to plug in, I'm not going to clean it up just yet. I'm going to plug the point in. So 2 is x, 1 is y. So I have 3, 2 squared, plus 3, 1 squared, dy dx is equal to 4. Then I'm going to have 2 dy dx plus 1 times 1. This here is going to be 2 squared is 4 times 3 makes 12. 1 squared is 1. That's 3 dy dx. This right here, 4 times 2 dy dx is 8 dy dx. 4 times 1 is 4. If I subtract 3 dy dx there, I end up with 5 dy dx. If I subtract 4 here, I end up with an 8. So 8 equals 5 dy dx. Therefore, dy dx is equal to 8/5. You should probably watch the video and then try it by yourself if you're taking down notes, okay? The video is always going to stay up. So dy dx is equal to 8/5. I prefer when I have a point to plug in the point. All right, before cleaning it up. So let's try one last example, okay? Tan angle equals x at the point 0, 0. What's the derivative of tan angle? Tan is powerful. Secant squared angle times the derivative of the angle. The derivative of x plus y is 1 plus dy dx. Okay, it's not a product rule. There's a plus in between the two. Okay, so it's a sum, which makes it a power rule. This guy right here is a 1. Let's put a 0 for the x and a 0 for the y. Instead of cleaning it up, I'm going to use blue. So I'll put a 0 plus 0, 0. Secant squared of 0. And then you have 1 plus dy dx equals 1. Now, secant 0 is equivalent to saying, what is cosine 0? The cosine of 0 is 1. So secant says take that answer and flip it, or take the reciprocal. So cosine of 0 is 1, therefore the secant is 1, and 1 squared is 1. So this whole thing is 1. And now here, we just have to be very, very careful. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times dy dx is just 1 dy dx, and that equals 1. If you subtract 1 on both sides, then dy dx equals 0. In other words, if I were going to graph this and I went to the point 0, 0, I would have a horizontal tangent line because my slope is 0. And that's how